Yeah.
I missed that.
There you go.
Okay. Call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Toohill?
Yes.
Esty?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any changes tonight to the agenda, Council?
I would like to be added on under committee reports to give a brief ambulance update.
Okay.
And if we could add under department reports, I'd like although Chief Thomas is gone now, isn't he?
He's off road.
He's out. I'd like an update on the traffic on Liberty Drive.
He's right there in the hallway.
Great, thank you. Do we need a motion on both of those?
I wouldn't, not for
Okay.
updates.
Yeah, okay. Tonight, I want to introduce our new city administrator, Mr. Doug Reinert. And I'm going to ask Doug to just say a few words about where he's coming from and a little bit about his family, so y'all can get to meet him a little bit.
So, thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm excited. We're coming from Fort Smith, Arkansas. My wife and 2 of our 5 children are currently at the house, packing, trying to get the house sold so that everybody can move here. And hopefully by August, everyone except for my adult children that are in other places, going to college, living their adult lives. But we're excited. My youngest daughter will be attending school here, and we'll just get things moving. But it's a pleasure, and it's a wonderful community, and I'm glad to be here.
Great, thank you. All righty, so let's move on to the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of the May 2022-2023 council meeting. Approval of the May 26, 2023 payroll in the amount of $103,281.35. Approval of the June 9th, 2023 payroll in the amount of $171,328.11. Acceptance of the Carnegie Museum board minutes. Acceptance of the Personnel Committee minutes. Acceptance of the Beautification Commission minutes for March and April. Consent of park use permit for Friends Church. This is a noise exemption. Consent of park use permit for Live on the Square. Again, this is a noise exemption for June 9th, July 8th, August, question mark? Do we have the date?
Well, it was going to be on the 26th, but that is also the Friends Church, and the Friends Church came in first, so we
Okay.
messaged Steve Smith and asked him to pick another date. We haven't heard back yet,
Okay,
so we have question marks.
okay, and September 9th. So I guess we'll finalize that date later.
Yeah.
Resolution of employment in the Parks and Recreation Department. Resolution of employment in the Street Department. Resolution of promotion in the Wastewater Department. Approval of liquor license for Pizza Hut, Veterans Club, Lunchbox, Shokai, BPO Elks Lodge, number 1192, and the Hideaway Pub. And approval of total claims in the amount of $895,779.29. We had 3 claims above $75,000. One for FEDA, $200,000. This is for the housing development. And we had one for Shive Hattery, $79,037, and Wicks Construction Inc., $142,863.90. Both of those are for the Highway 1 project. So that is all for our consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent
I
agenda.
actually had 2 questions real quick. The payroll, what was the amount you had down for payroll?
Which one, May or June?
May.
$133,281.35.
Okay. I thought I heard 103, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And
well,
the FEDA one I'd like to point
you
out
never
too
know
is,
what I said.
I'd like to point out too, the $200,000 FEDA claim is a loan,
Correct.
which will be repaid.
Yep. Okay, then we have a motion on the table by
Second.
Anderson, second by Rasmussen. Any further discussion?
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Well, first I'll just say I went through all the claims and I recommend going in and approving their payment. Didn't find anything irregular. And then in the Carnegie Museum board minutes, they are proposing to sell the Fairfield series, History Series films for $20 a piece. And the question that came into my mind was those production of those films were made possible by taxpayer dollars. in part. And so I was wondering what's the appropriate, well, at first I thought they were in the public domain or would be in the public domain, but now they're being sold for profit, so.
They are both in public domain and for sale. A copy is at the library for all, sorry.
Yeah, so there are copies at the library. They are sold like at everybody's. I don't know where else they're sold. So they're in the public domain
Okay.
being sold, and those proceeds go back to Fairfield Productions.
Well, half of it goes to Fairfield Production, half of it goes to the Carnegie Museum.
I don't think it's dead split half.
That's what it says in the minutes.
Okay.
So, it's, the minutes say the cost of production is $10, they're selling them for 20, and the $10 profit is being split by Fairfield Production and the Carnegie Museum.
So do you think that's, are you thinking that's inappropriate?
I was wondering about that, so.
As long as it's in the public domain, where those who have helped pay through taxes would like to watch it for, and rewatch them for free.
Well, if it's a
But
public
there are
domain-
those asking for copies,
Yeah.
so that they have them available, just view without having to go online or whatever. Then basically, we're making that available to them and making
Well-
the production of it.
Are they available
producing
online?
them. Pardon?
Jason, are they available online? Okay. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you just, this is just to buy your personal copy and have it.
Right. It's like
Yes.
having your own copy of a major document that just, might be costly to produce if we did them all. But this way,
No.
people are offering to pay for it to be made for them, so they're willing to
Yeah.
do.
They're available free online and at the library, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's in the direction of a donation is what is taking place. You're donating to Carnegie, you're donating to the film production series.
Closer to the mic.
I think it's in the way of a donation. Can you hear me now? Yeah. You're donating to Carnegie Museum, you're donating to the production company, so I think that's
Right.
probably what's in mind there.
Yeah, my concern is they're available to the public at free, then I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have another question?
No, I already said you can pay the bills.
Okay. Okay,
That was
so with that, any other questions, discussion? No, please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to do public forum and appearances. First up is Alex Mickunas, our library director.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. In the coming year, there will be a small decrease in the amount of revenue received by the city of Fairfield from the public library. For this reason, I have come to speak to you tonight. Additionally, I would like to share about a new resource offered by the library, as well as a data visualization collaboration with the University of Iowa. At Fairfield Public Library's April board meeting, trustees unanimously voted to waive associated fees for interlibrary loan requests. Through this service known as ILL, patrons at public libraries in Iowa may request items from other public libraries and university libraries that are not available at their local libraries. With our new policy, all residents of Jefferson County are now able to request up to 5 items at a time through ILL at no cost. Previously, there was a $2 fee associated with each request, with the city receiving $50 to $80 monthly in revenue through these fees. The library has seen some decrease in ILL usage since the pandemic, and trustees understand the small fee as an unnecessary barrier to access. Over 5 years ago, the State Library of Iowa in Des Moines, which oversees ILL, implemented a free courier service for transporting library materials. And for this reason, most public libraries can no longer justify charging a fee for requests. Prior to the adoption of the courier service, the $2 fee was used to offset the cost of postage for libraries. It is our hope that this change will increase usage of the library services and general library use. And for these next two, I got a little handout for you. You can pass these down.
Thank you. Thanks, Alex.
In May of this year, the Library Foundation approved a request to fund the implementation of a library app for FPL with the company MyLibro. The app, slated for an August rollout, will greatly increase accessibility to library resources. It will merge our physical library collection, such as books and movies, with our ebooks and e-audiobooks, with everything accessible in one place. Additionally, the app will store a digital copy of borrowers' library cards, so replacing the physical card will become optional. The app utilizes simple AI and a special chat feature to assist users in locating items and resources they may be searching for. Our app will also allow easy access to all of our e-resources, such as consumerreports.org, LinkedIn Learning, Mango Languages, which is our English and foreign language learning app, as well as FPL's free online access to New York Times and Wall Street Journal. My last item, you could look at the last page here. I want to share that I have received assistance from Jay Bowen of the University of Iowa's Digital Scholarship and Publishing Studio to complete a project to map library usage data for our community. The data visualization created by Mr. Bowen shows where library usage is concentrated in the city of Fairfield, the library's contracting towns, and rural Jefferson County, with borrower markers displayed in varying sizes depending on library usage. It is our hope that we can use this data to show our residents and local government where borrowers are utilizing our services most and where we can concentrate our outreach efforts in the future. The version of the map you have is a draft and will be improved upon when I give my annual report in July. As most of you are aware, libraries have seen a significant decrease in funding at the county level due to a bill passed by our state government earlier this year. Together with Library Board of Trustees, other library partners, and our phenomenal staff, it is my determination to continue expanding our usership by an additional 500 patrons by the end of 2023. In the last 12 months, the library saw over 82,000 checkouts by nearly 3,000 borrowers. Clearly, the library is a vital space for our community, and with its mission to provide free and equal access to information, I believe that the library is a cornerstone of American democracy. It's truly an honor and a privilege to serve as our community's library director. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this report.
Great. Thank you, Alex. Any questions for Alex?
Can you tell us the current, well, you mentioned legislation that was passed earlier this year by the state. Is that in effect already?
It is, yeah.
How does it limit county support of the library?
The county isn't able to collect taxes through property taxes the same way they were able to before, and I think that's part of the reason why properties and houses have been reassessed at higher value over the course of the last, 3 months or more, is to sort of make up for that loss in property taxes.
How does that affect library funding?
Well, if the county can't collect the same amount of money from its residents, they don't have as much money to share with us.
Oh, okay, so it's not direct, it's indirect. So, don't you go to the county every year and ask for support?
I do, yeah. And we had kind of we'd seen gradual decreases over the last 10 years. Over 10 years ago, or roughly 10 years ago, we were receiving $85,000 from the county. And then by, 2022, it had been decreased to $63,000. And then this year, they decreased it an additional $18,000, which is the most dramatic decrease we've ever seen. And it's actually it's been decreased to the basically the Iowa Code minimum. So the concern is that with that funding, which we consider as revenue for the city, there could be at some point less funding from the city for the public library.
I wasn't aware that there was a minimum required by the state that the county support the library with.
That's right, there is.
I didn't know that. How much is that?
I can't remember, but it's based on the property of the value of all the properties.
Yeah.
So it's really important for us to be able to show everyone, but maybe especially the county supervisors, that there are so many rural county users making very good use of the library's resources. And actually, this map, it's actually one that you can interact with. You can actually move around, and you can actually look at every address if you want to, and see exactly who it is that's checking out the most materials. I don't think anyone would be ashamed of us knowing that they checked out 1,000 items in 1 year. But it's been really fun and interesting for me to see. Wow, for example, there was one person, one of our top library users. They've checked out over 38,000 items since 1997. That was just amazing to me, and I was able to check to make sure that all of the statistics were correct, and it's totally accurate.
Well, just to point out something, you made a distinction between rural and city residents. City residents are also county residents, and we also pay
Right.
county taxes. And valuation of the city is about 38% of the total. So the county paying for the library is just the city residents paying the county taxes that are paying for the library.
Right.
So people seem to forget that, but that's the case. So we are paying taxes to the county. And we should receive county benefits.
Yes. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so
you.
much. Appreciate it. So we have 3 more presentations. I'd like to keep each of these to 5 minutes if possible. So, hey, Josh, so we'll have Josh Laraby from FEDA.
Council, may I give you a handout?
Oops, thank you.
Same as what's on
I better keep one for myself.
That's good, Josh.
I know.
I brought an extra. There you go.
Got it?
I have one. Yeah.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for this opportunity, and welcome, Doug. Welcome aboard.
Thank
you. As you know, we just completed the Rural Housing Readiness Assessment, essentially our housing study, so I thought this would be an appropriate time to refresh on an existing a loan program that we have for making home improvements. It is targeted a little bit more towards those who are low to moderate income. I wanted to kind of refresh you on this program. Some of you may be hearing about it for the first time. It's a partnership and led by Area 15 Regional Housing Trust Fund. And this specific program is called the AHEAD Regional Housing Trust Fund. The loan program, and I do have some data from its inception, just to start off with that, and we can get into the details. This loan program typically and mostly focuses on owner-occupied rehabilitation and repair opportunities. There's also a rental or a landlord improvement loan program, and there's a demolition and redevelopment loan program, and also a special projects category, which I'll talk about briefly also. But again, mainly tonight I want to focus on the repair and rehabilitation part of this overall loan program for owner-occupied units, as we have 567 substandard homes that we've identified in Fairfield, as you've learned from the housing study. So this could be a great program for some of our residents. The goal of the program is to improve the housing stock in a 6-county region, including Jefferson County. And to date, since the inception in 2012, this loan program has helped 43 households, providing a loan and home improvements of a total of $384,998. So those loans go to improving our housing stock and subsequently raising our housing valuations, and beneficially helping maybe those who may not be able to access financing dollars to make home improvements through a traditional institution. So I just want to give a little bit of an overview. You, as a owner-occupied homeowner, or as an owner-occupied unit, you can borrow up to $12,000 per home, depending on your income level. And I won't go too much into the weeds, but there's somewhere between a 10 and 25% equity requirement. There's a minimum requirement or eligibility requirement of having at least a $20,000 valuation of the house itself, not including the land. Loans are from 0 to 2%. And for those who are 30% below, just give me 1 second here. There's a lot of data. Those that are below 30%, the HUD income limits for the median income are eligible for deferred payments. So if you are in the lowest income tier, and these are going to change in the next month with increasing the income limits, but if you're in that lowest tier, you can have deferred payments. Again, this is based on income, and how the loan is repaid back then, since there's no payments due during the loan, is if there's ever a transfer of the deed, meaning sale, whether you sell it to a trust or if someone was to pass away and sell it to a family member, then that loan and that lien needs to be repaid at that time. But this provides an incredible opportunity for those who may not be able to access financing at a traditional institution or may not be able to afford a monthly payment. And the loans are amortized if there's a payment due, either at 5, 7, or 10 years it's amortized. And usually that payment, when there is one due, is about $100 a month, if they were to borrow the full $12,000. The loan dollars can be used to improve existing things in the home. Typically it's used for more substantial infrastructure or increasing the integrity of the home, whether that may be replacing a roof, heating and air conditioning, or replacing windows. What you cannot do with this program is add an addition onto your house. You can't add something that doesn't exist. Again, it's intended to improve the existing housing stock in our communities, including Jefferson County. There's not many, but there's a handful of eligibility requirements, such as having homeowners insurance. The home must be in the individual's name. We tend to run into this in Fairfield. A lot of homes are in the name of a trust. So I like to put that out there. It needs to be in an individual's name and not in an LLC or a trust. Property taxes need to be current. Utilities need to be current, things of that such. It's a great program. Again, 43 households in the county have been helped since 2012 with almost $385,000 loaned to homeowners. In addition to the owner-occupied part of this program, there's also a special projects category. And in Fairfield, the Loudon Lofts project was loaned $100,000 at a 2% loan. That was considered a local match. So there is special projects considered. And this program overall is targeted at low to moderate income, as I mentioned. So rental units are, if dollars were to be borrowed for a project that were rentals, there is income limits on those, on the project that is being loaned to. Also, the program sometimes provides grants. In the case of Fairfield, 3 total grants have been provided for a complete total of $23,000 to the Habitat for Humanity program here. So overall, it's a really good program, and my purpose here tonight is just to create awareness. I am going to leave a number of these pamphlets here at City Hall, so when you're out in your different wards and talking with your constituents, please share this information. And we are looking at additional grant and loan programs too, but this is one that's existing and has been working.
Josh, is there any plan to get these out to maybe those 500 and some households?
That's it.
As a mailer or something, in a letter?
That's a great point, great question. I think we can organize that. That'd be a good list to start with, absolutely.
Okay, or under a certain assessed value or something like that, maybe.
Fairfield Economic Development serves as, like I said, this serves 6 counties, and FEDA is the local contact. I do take pride in helping any homeowner through an application. There's things such as you have to collect your deed. Some people have never done that. That might be overwhelming. So we make sure to make sure that everybody is able to complete an application if they pre-qualify. So we do a little bit of hand-holding if that's absolutely necessary, and we take pride in doing that.
Great.
I think we should get these out to our construction people and our remodeling people in town here.
Yes.
Because when you run into a customer who you put a bid out and they can't quite make that bid, they have stairs that need to be replaced, for example, exterior stairs, for example. This would be great for them to have to help close the deal and get their house fixed. So,
Absolutely.
Okay, I think Melanie has a list of contractors, don't you? Yeah.
And that's a really good segue, Doug, to contractors that are engaged with this program need to be registered with Iowa Workforce Development, which just ensures protection for both the loan program and the homeowner. And essentially, Iowa Workforce Development looks at, is this a current company that's registered, and are they insured? Are essentially the two main points they look at, so it
Great.
protects all the parties.
Okay, thanks. Thank you
But
very
I
much.
do in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it went more than that, but I gave you an allowance. Oh, go ahead.
One more
Joe.
minute, Josh. This program's been around a lot for about the last 20 years.
Okay.
And depending on the political times, for a while, the small towns around here were allowed to have a forgiveness program. So I've done releases of some of these mortgages in some of the small surrounding communities. And I know that isn't there right now, but it might come again depending on the political climate. The other thing about it is if they're not forgiven, they had another program where it was prorated, so that if you stayed in the house and you had a 7-year loan, it went down as far as the amount of repayment depending on 5 years, 3 years left, and so forth. So those are two things that could happen also. Again, they were popular when they were that way, so.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Lindsay Bauer from the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me in. Welcome, Doug. Elizabeth, your hair looks amazing. And just to take 1 second, since mine is so fast and Connie gave me 5 minutes, I'm going to take 1 second to express my respect and admiration for the work of my colleagues who went before me. What Alex and Josh are doing in this community is absolutely outstanding, and I really have a great deal of respect for the support that they have from you all and for the work what they're doing with that support. The application that you have from me tonight is a very simple road closure form for the Summer Outdoor Concert Series. This is our 3rd annual series. This year we have 4 concerts. Previous years we've had 6. The reason for that is twofold. The reason for the decrease. One, when we first started this program, it was in the middle still of a pandemic and no one else was able to do their own concerts. Cafe Paradiso was not hosting music. Steve Smith and Classic 96's Live on the Square was not as active. Now they are, and there is no reason for us to compete with that. We'd prefer to augment versus pull away from, so we've reduced our series down to 4. And the other reason is because we also are so much more active now with the advent of Cinema Fairfield and low-cost movies and entertainment for families, that we want to make sure that our resources are going in the right directions.
So, any questions, council? You want to approve this road closure? She's got June 29th, July 13th, July 27th, and August 10th.
move we approve the road closure requests for those dates.
Second.
Moved by Flournoy, second by Ham. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. There you go.
Thank you.
Look forward to good summer music. All righty. So next up is Mr. Rick Shaddock. And Rick, I'm gonna, if you can keep your, to 3 minutes, because I'm gonna go ahead and I'm also gonna let Mr. Revelinsky have a couple minutes as well, because he's got some additional information.
Yeah, that's the idea. This is, thank you. Speech, but I'm only read 1 minute of it and yield the balance of my time to.
Thank you.
Revelinsky. Thank you. Tobacco Prevention Coordinator over 10 years. So on behalf of the Fairfield, Iowa Carpenter Avenue Homeowners Association, we have a petition at movesmokers.com. So it's all on the website with videos and pictures worth 1,000 words, mostly of foreign student men smoking next to the ladies' dormitory across the street from the Maharishi School children on the corner of Carpenter Avenue between 4th Street and Shaddock Street. And they are violating littering rules with cigarette butts and our property rights. So when I was at MIU in 1980, I never saw anyone smoke. We practiced TM, the best technique for raising IQ and realizing smoking is kind of stupid. So why do we have smokers now in Fairfield? Well, sadly, my generation we built golden domes and nice classrooms, but not enough children in those classrooms. And Fairfield's having the same problem as well. I think we received 1,557 students in the Fairfield School District. So MIU, to pay expenses, had to go outside the community, way outside, even to countries with high smoking rates. So to the young generation, please create at least 2 kids, and or you'll find yourself replaced with people who don't share your values. And with that, I'd like to turn the balance of my time over to John Revelinski.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. The university has a very successful master's program in computer science. It's actually the 3rd largest such program in the nation. And it relies heavily on international, actually it's exclusively international students. That's generally who study computer science in America these days in the graduate level. And so because of the high number of computer professional students who come to the program, their classroom happens to be across the street where they've decided to smoke. And these people bring their habits with them from overseas. So this is an issue, I feel, and many parents and members of the community feel, is there something we can do? The university, of course, has considered its options. I was the tobacco prevention coordinator for 10 years here in Jefferson County. And in 2006, when the tobacco, what's it called, the Iowa Smoke-Free Air Act was passed, they made the provision that smoking would not be allowed, or tobacco use would not be allowed in any college campus, in any part of the college campus or school grounds. And I was actually opposed to it at that time because I foresaw this problem. I thought, we're going to have our smokers go out right there on the street and everybody's going to come by and, oh, everybody at MIU smokes, whatever. But so the feeling was that the university thought, well, let's just put up we'll have a smoking place for them, but it's actually illegal to do that. And so what are the options? The Coral Bill passed an ordinance that I give you a copy of at the bottom and about tobacco use, and it's actually 6 years ago. And they restricted tobacco use you cannot use tobacco within 25 feet of a public building, of any building that was already covered by the Smoke-Free Air Act to be smoke-free. And so it's certainly within our prerogative to pass such an ordinance. And my suggestion would be to pass it for like a block away from a school or a university that tobacco use would not be allowed. Now, in speaking with our mayor this afternoon, of course, if you say you can't smoke a block away, then the people 2 blocks away might be up here next year and complaining. And, do we really need to pass an ordinance for every little thing? And, of course, I was on your side of the dais for 20 years here. And my reaction was always, can't you guys just work this out before we have to pass a law? And so the request here is, to send this to committee, maybe a public safety committee. But I would suggest that you do send it to the committee. But the committee, please wait to act on it. I think what we need to do is just from the fact that the city would send it to committee to consider this, we can meet with the international students and tell them, even though, as a legal resident of America, you have the right to smoke in a public place, we would ask you as a good neighbor not to do it in this place because you're bothering, the community feels a little disrupted. And perhaps if you need to smoke, do it further away and just walk while you do it. Don't congregate in one place. So I think having this kind of backup from the city that you've sent it to committee, you're considering, we can say the city is considering passing an ordinance to prevent this, which would actually mean you'd get fined and be in legal trouble. I think that would have an effect on it. And these are good people. They're so grateful to be here in America, and they end up working at Microsoft or Meta or something, it's a wonderful situation for them, and I think they're going to be happy to comply. So my request to you, and I hope Rick's not disappointed, is pass it to committee and hold off until you hear from the university how it's going, from the Carpenter Committee, how it's going after a few months, and see if we can handle this just neighbor to neighbor, which is, I think, how we want our council, how the council likes to traditionally handle things. So That's what I have to say.
Thank you, John. And I'll just say, I spoke to Tom Brooks last week as well, and John's been in contact with Tom as well, and so they've had discussions, and so I think that's a probably reasonable thing. So council, do you want to take it to committee? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'd make the motion to refer this to public safety.
Okay,
Second.
So, second by Mr. Gandy. Any other discussion?
I'm just curious, is it public safety or environmental?
Sorry.
I think it could be either, but
Yeah, I
public
think so,
safety
too.
makes the most sense. It seems to
I
be
made the motion for public
intuitive.
safety.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it could be either. So, so all those in
Appreciate
favor
that, Tom.
say aye.
Not doing anything else, are you?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, it has passed unanimously
Thank
to go to Safety Committee for their review. Okay, great, thank you. So we will move on to our resolution, action items, and ordinances. First action item is consideration of Rural Housing Readiness Assessment Program Participating Community Agreement. Yeah, do you want to say more about this?
I didn't know if someone from the committee or Rebecca, you wanted me to come up. So council, the agreement you have in front of you is a former agreement that was executed. It's two parts. It was with Iowa State University and Iowa Economic Development Authority, and that was to engage in the rural housing readiness assessment, again, that we completed. But the other good part of that contract is that we were awarded a $10,000 grant as part of this engagement. When I say we, I mean the city, to go towards housing initiatives. There's a lot of uses of those funds. They're eligible to be claimed after you complete your rural housing readiness assessment with Iowa State University, which we have done and presented to council, and the council has accepted the housing study. So what we're here tonight to ask is for Fairfield Economic Development to be able to receive that grant as a pass-through from the city to FEDA to help lead the next 12 months of committee meetings with the committees that are tasked with carrying through some of the objectives and goals. It will be pretty intensive. There's 4 different committees, and I should have them in front of me. One is new housing development and attracting developers. One is public awareness about what's going on with housing initiatives. One is related to code and safety. And the 4th one, Paul, I'm kind of looking to you. I didn't, there's a 4th committee.
Marketing? Marketing?
That was the marketing. There's 4 committees, and it will take some coordination with ongoing meetings, minutes, making progress, and really what I call keeping a glue to the project, which I think is really important, as housing is, I believe, one of the top 2 initiatives for the city right now. So we think it's important in our offering those services to the city, and those resources would be helpful to us. We have brought on Sarah McEvan, who is with us tonight. She is a sophomore at the University of Northern Iowa, focusing on finance and real estate. And you may know her father, Pat McEvan, who is a former assistant county attorney, and she's excited to be on board, and these resources would provide additional assistance in our office for staffing and coordination to carry out these 12 months of projects.
I would note that former Assistant County Attorney Pat McEvan is now Judge McEvan.
Yes.
Elizabeth has replaced
Thank
him
you.
in the County Attorney's office. But just to remind the council, we spoke when Josh first introduced the idea of the rural assessment program to the council. He also noted that with the $5,000 investment by the city, once the assessment was provided to the city, we would be eligible for a $10,000 grant. And he also, at that time, suggested the grant be passed through to FEDA for exactly the purpose he mentioned. So this is something that we prepared for, and I think at that time we indicated our general agreement with what you're suggesting. So I would propose I would move that we accept the FEDA's request and have the money, the $10,000, passed through to FEDA for the purpose he just enumerated.
Okay, I'm not clear on what the purpose is.
He'll tell you.
So a result of the housing study, there is a 12-month action plan with goals and objectives for the 4 committees underneath the housing study that need to meet on a regular basis. Those committees will need assistance in scheduling meetings, keeping minutes, and also carrying through and looking further into some of their recommendations. They don't have staff, they're community members and council members, so that there will be a lot of administrative responsibilities in keeping this together and moving it forward.
So it's to pay for staff to facilitate these
Correct,
meetings?
it will assist, yes, in that. In addition, FEDA, the city put up a $5,000 match, and FEDA also pledged to a $5,000 match when we applied for this grant for the city, which we will exceed in this assistance, plus we're making, as you know, a pretty significant investment in housing here in this month.
I would second Mr. Gandy's motion.
Okay. Been moved and seconded to pass this on to FEDA when it comes, the $10,000 grant for the work that will continue on the housing. So is there any other questions or discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Gandy?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Great, thank you. That was passed unanimously. Thank you, Josh. We look forward to more action on all those committees. Next is, action item is consideration to refer inflation surcharge review to committee. I'll just remind the community that a year ago, a little more than a year ago, Waste Management requested a surcharge due to the increase in price in gas, et cetera, and inflation issues, and it was to be reviewed in May, and so we're a month behind, but we'd like to refer this back to the Environmental and Franchise Committee, I believe, for them to review it with Waste Management and see if they feel that that should continue.
I make a motion to refer to environment franchise.
Okay, been moved by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Ham. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Next action item is consideration to refer prohibiting engine brake ordinance, to refer this to committee. And I'm assuming the Public Safety Committee, again, maybe it could go to environmental, but the council can choose. This has been a request. I've gotten this request several times. I actually requested it 20 years ago when I was on the council. It never went anywhere. But it is an issue in different parts of town, even downtown.
Can you explain it more? What
Could the police chief speak to this?
Dave, do you have any comments about this?
Engine braking?
Yeah, it's.
Come on up to the mic so the public can hear you. Sorry. And I do have some sample ordinances that I pulled off from communities here in Iowa.
Yes, we would be in support. We're actually kind of surprised most communities in Iowa because of the high semi-truck traffic have city ordinances and then they post them. But it is quite loud when semi-trucks use there, and if it's not posted, they'll use because it saves their brakes. And we do get a lot of complaints, and unfortunately, there's nothing we have been able to enforce yet.
How about motorcycles?
Other than the muffler ordinance, now the state does have also a very in-depth muffler law that mirrors our city ordinance, so either one is quite effective. Any modification that makes it louder is illegal.
Explain to me, if you can, what's the mechanics here, the engine brake, or what would be prohibiting?
Instead of using their brakes, they downshift,
Right.
and that's quite a louder engine sound because the engine is running quite a bit, and it's startling too. It's a loud noise, and
It's
as
a
you know,
mechanism that works on
semis
slow
don't always
engine.
Monday through Friday 9 to 5. It's 3 in the morning. They're coming through town. It hasn't been as bad since we've had the bypass, but it is still bad with a lot of trucks coming in the middle of the night. When I was working night shift, 3 in the morning, they're downshifting.
How would you
It's not
enforce? How would you enforce this?
If you made an ordinance, there would be no downshifting at all, and it's very obvious, like it is with mufflers. It's quite loud.
So the law enforcement would be able to stop the offending
Generally, if
truck.
a city has it, when there's a sign when they come into town that says engine
Yeah.
brake prohibited. So
People
that-
hear the
that-
engine racking.
Yeah.
It's
so-
not an issue of brake lights not being used, it's the noise issue is the issue.
Correct, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Has this been brought to us by a citizen
Yes.
that would want to speak at the committee if we refer to committee?
This person isn't very mobile,
Okay.
but lives on the edge of town, so I don't.
So they get
I don't
the
think
engine braking?
he would come up here. Quickly, Rick, are you hearing it by your house?
Oh, yeah, now right on Route 1, across the street from the campus.
Yeah.
I hear it.
So that's it upon entry
Yeah.
into town? I'll make a
Um,
motion to refer to
Can we
public
have one
safety.
more
Second.
discussion? Doug, was your question about motorcycles?
Well, I rode a motorcycle and I brake by downshifting sometimes.
Yeah, are you saying you
But
want
it's
to
not, I don't
outlaw
notice a
that?
noise difference in my motorcycle when I do it.
Yeah, because I,
When you downshift in a semi, your engine revs, your RPMs go way high, which creates
It's
engine
different
noise.
experience.
sometimes
Yeah.
backfires and all kinds of
Sometimes,
stuff. Yeah, so,
But it's always very loud,
yeah.
so.
Second.
Okay, so yeah, we have a motion by Anderson and a second by Gandy. Boy, I'm having trouble with last names tonight.
To which committee?
Public safety.
Public
Okay.
safety.
Alright.
Any further discussion or questions?
Because let's pack our agenda.
That's right. Let's get it all done with. So please call the roll, and I'm going to pass these to you. Again, these are, I think I have 3 cities here in Iowa.
Anderson,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Great. Okay, next action item. Consideration to set a public hearing for annexation of Walton Park Subdivision. This is adjacent to the Prairie Lakes for Monday, June 26th at 7 p.m.
Move to
Make the motion, we
approve.
set the public hearing for Monday, June 26th at 7 p.m.
Second.
Okay, moved by Florence, second by Gandy. Any other discussion? Now please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Okay, next action item, consideration to set public hearing on a proposed ordinance establishing franchise agreement with ITC Midwest LLC. Again, this is for Monday, June 26th at 7 p.m. Melanie, you gonna talk?
No, I was early.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to say something about this.
No.
So this has to do again with poles, lines, wires, conduits, telecommunications, and other equipment that's in our right of way. So-
International Transmission Company is what it stands for. I
There
don't
you
know
go.
if anyone was still curious about that.
Yeah.
Motion to set public hearing for June 26th.
Second.
Okay, moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Next action item, consideration to accept Parks Buildings project bid. Now Melanie's ready.
Yeah. Rebecca lumps me all together at the end. So we received bids on the 2 parks buildings, the Waterworks Shelter and the Chautauqua Maintenance Building. We received them last week. We received 1 bid from RG Construction of Ottumwa, Iowa, with a base bid of $864,866.75, with a grand total of $1,079,534.90. So although a big portion of this is getting paid for with the Ed Felger estate funds, this is not within our budget. Because we received 1 bidder, I'll say that Calvin and I met with Mr. Morrissey and the executor of the estate today, and they are in support of our action plan. We're going to meet with the contract or the low bidder tomorrow and discuss, were there any confusions in the bid that by clarifying something that we can change the price, where do they see the best opportunities for cutting prices. If the scope changes so dramatically, we may have to go out to rebids, but the executor of the state would like us to continue to work towards both buildings still. So at this point, all I'm asking is, I guess, for a motion to acknowledge RG Construction as the low bidder. They are aware that they are not within budget, and like I said, we're going to meet with him tomorrow to discuss the bid and look for cost savings measures. One of the biggest things that caught our eye right away was the cost of the water and sewer lines. I mean, it was 10 times what we expected. I haven't asked him specifically why it was so high, whether he couldn't get a subcontractor to do the work, and felt unsure about it. But we have talked with our water and sewer department, and there is some stuff that we can do in-house to pull that where we only end up paying for the materials to save some money there, but that alone won't bring us within the budget. So we're going to meet with the contractor tomorrow.
What was our budget for this?
$700,000. So we have $500,000 coming from the Ed Felger estate, and then 160 some from Lost, and then some water and sewer funds.
There may be some up to about $50,000 more of income from the Felgers.
It's overbid by about $380,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd make the motion to accept, what's the RG?
Acknowledge.
Just acknowledge them
acknowledge.
as the low
I'd
bidder.
make the motion to acknowledge the low bidder is RG Construction.
Second.
Okay, moved by Flournoy, second by SC. Any further discussion?
What was the other bid?
There were no
Oh,
other
that
bids.
was the only bid.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was the only bid.
All right.
And then one thing I have not done yet is talk with some of the other plan holders. We actually had a lot of interest in the project. A lot of people received plans. I have not talked to them as to why they ended up not bidding it. I was scared they were going to tell me my plans were horrible. But because there were a handful of local pole building companies that we sent notice to, and they received plans, but I have not followed up with them as to why they didn't bid it. So some work to do on that.
Okay, great. So if there's no other discussion or questions, go ahead and call the roll.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Next is consideration of playground equipment at Waterworks Park.
So this is for entering into a contract for playground equipment at Waterworks Park. This was a budgeted item in fiscal year 24. Calvin received 4 bids for different types of play structures. The play structures are not going to be apples to apples, so not only is he looking at the price, but also looking at the features that they provide. And in the end, Calvin would like to proceed with the American Playground and Recreation, their Paradise play structure, which is included in there. They were also the low bidder, but given that they were our same provider for the O.B. Nelson Castle Park, we felt like their crews did a good job. Their crews were efficient, respectful. There's been a couple warranty issues with the O.B. Nelson that they've fixed very quickly. So Calvin's been happy with their work at O.B. Nelson and would like to recommend to accept the proposal from American Playground and Recreation at $57,222.
Jason, can we get that on the screen?
And there's a lot more slides.
No pirate ship.
Slides, to go down slides on number 1.
Do you know which page it is of the attachment, the proposed one?
Is it 5?
Right there.
That one?
Yeah.
Yep, it's that one.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted the community to be able to see what we're.
Yep. And this is going in the pretty much the same location as the other one, which is kind of northwest of the beach, like uphill from the beach, but everything's uphill from the beach. How else to describe it? You come in off of B, and that first 90-degree turn you make, if you would go straight rather than making the 90-degree turn, that would be where the playground is.
Okay.
Okay.
So is there a motion to accept
So
the
moved.
first one?
I move that we accept the bid.
Second.
Okay. Okay. Moved by Rasmussen, second by Toohill. Any other discussion? Not, please.
What is our time frame on this?
I do not know.
Okay.
I believe that he's still, that it's hoping for this year, getting the order in now. And I believe, and they are understanding that the money's not available until July 1st.
Okay.
But we're really close.
We're really close to that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, please call the roll.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Next action item, consideration of street maintenance building.
So another budgeted item for fiscal year 2024 was a new maintenance or a new building out at the streets department. They are proposing a 40 by 144 foot building, 16 foot tall with 8 bays. This is under the bid threshold. The bid threshold's raised within the last couple years, so we are able to get quotes rather than go out to bids like we did with the other buildings. The street department, and Joe's here if you have any questions, their plan is for the streets department to level the area. Then the company would come in, put the building up. The concrete floor, electrical installation would all be future work that's either done in-house or kind of like on a yearly basis as they proceed to make the building better. But so we had budgeted 160. I was like, I thought I wrote it down. We had budgeted 160 for this, and Joe received 4 quotes for that, with the low quote being from Fox Valley Commercial Roofing for $142,000. The base quote was for $139,000. Upgrading to the 26 gauge steel, which is what the other companies were. So to bid them apples to apples, the total for Fox Valley would be $142,000. So if there's nothing else, I will say when I've reviewed these that these prices did not include a bond. Iowa code says anything over $25,000 has to have a performance and payment bond. They roughly cost a contractor 3%. So we would, recommend, not council passing a not to exceed of 150. It's still within the budget, but allows us to pay for the bond.
So state your recommendation again, please.
Proceed with Fox Valley, commercial roofing, but instead of awarding it at 142, a not to exceed of 150. So that we can pay for the bond. Their 142 number does not include a 3% bond.
I would move to approve that recommendation.
Second.
Okay, moved by Gandy, second by Flournoy. Any other questions?
Is this replacing or in addition to the building that's already out there, or building?
So there, I'll just let you talk so they can get it ready.
There's 2 buildings there that were built back in probably the 50s. The silver ones, to the north, or to the west. And there's actually some posts that are broken and we can't get doors open, so they're in pretty bad shape. And this will be a truck, mainly a truck bay from the snow plows and stuff, and the trucks will just stand there all the time instead of taking up the big building that you see all the time.
So you're tearing the old one down?
Yep, there are 2 of them. There's 2 old.
You're tearing 2 of them down?
Mm-hmm.
And your guys are doing that?
Yep,
Or that's part of
we
this?
will do it.
You guys are doing it?
It's going to be in-house labor.
Yep.
Are there Christmas decorations in that building?
That's the other building. That's building number 4.
Okay.
On farther west.
That's a new building, relatively new building.
Yeah, I just want to check there weren't any Christmas
I
decorations
say we
in
don't
this
want to
building.
lose, yeah. Okay.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions? Now please call the roll.
Gandy?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Next action item, consideration of engineering services agreement for construction of the airport Phase 3 project.
Okay, so you guys have awarded the contract for the Phase 3 improvements. Too many contractors to keep track of. I can't remember which one it was. But we have awarded the contract, and in that awarding discussion, we had mentioned, that the project is slightly over budget. The numbers that are in front of you tonight are for engineering services during construction, and this is the amount that was figured in that budget. So this is not going to make us further over budget by approving these. The airport project consists of state funds and federal funds, and we have to keep that work separated, included any engineering services during that construction. So for CMT, who is our main, for Doug's information, they are our main consultant for the airport. Their state portion is a total of $18,200, and their federal portion is a total of $52,000. So we are looking at a combined contract amount, not to exceed amount, of $70,200. And just for reference, the total construction cost is $733,000. Just to give you kind of an idea of how much that engineering is relative to the construction cost.
So do you need two separate motions to keep the state and federal motion?
No. We just keep the their billing separate. So.
Motion to approve engineering service agreements for airport phase 3.
Second.
Okay, moved by Anderson, second by Rasmussen. Any other questions or discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Oh, Gandy. Sorry.
Yes.
Last but not least.
There's a blank there.
There we go.
Sorry.
We have a resolution, consideration of amendment to the swamp funding. This has to do with Crow Creek Bridge.
Yeah, and Jason's gonna bring that up on the third page. Just want to talk about the budget overall for the Crow Creek Bridge. So we're, as far as bidding this project, we're still waiting to see how Highway 1 proceeds. We really don't want the two projects to overlap. So we are waiting a little bit on bidding that project. But the engineers on this job have re-estimated the cost of the bridge based off of the current market, like this year's market. And like everything, it has gone up significantly, but luckily we semi had a plan for this. So we're looking around, 2.2 million, almost a 50%, or doubling the cost from when we first started talking about this about 5 years ago. And you'll see then below that we had some lost funding 2 fiscal years ago, or last fiscal year. We have some road use money this fiscal year, and we have the $1 million in federal bridge funds. What I'm asking for tonight is to ask for an additional $660,000 from our STBG. This is our funds that we get from the state. They go to regional planning. We get around $129,000 a year. We have been trying to save that money for Burlington, but I believe as much as I want Burlington to happen sooner rather than later, we also need to proceed with this bridge project. So these funds are there. We are not borrowing ahead. We're just knocking down, we're lowering our savings fund for Burlington by using this, but the funds are there. So we'd like to ask for an additional $660,000 from the STBG. And then I do have some, just to make the numbers.
Before you jump ahead, what would you do with it if it went to Burlington?
No, it is for about 5 years down the road of a resurfacing. Yeah.
Lines, yeah.
So it'd be delayed a couple of years?
Yeah.
Is
I
that
don't know,
is that what we're looking at, is a couple years if we take 600 out of that?
Yeah.
Because we've been talking about Burlington for a couple years already.
Well, yeah, but like a couple years ago it was 10 years, and so now it's closer to like 5 years, but
Plus a couple.
Plus a couple, yeah. I would say that's a very good point, but given the most recent, given that we have the $1 million and also the most recent bridge report.
I say we didn't pass the last inspection, correct?
We did pass the last inspection. Their warning was within the next inspection cycle. If we did not do anything, we would have to limit the weight of the bridge. So as much as I would like something to happen on Burlington, I think the bridge is a higher priority. And
will you restripe Burlington between now and resurfacing?
No.
It's getting pretty thin in some places.
We are going to paint where it is existing, but not restriping, not moving them or anything.
I'm looking to make sure Joe knows that we're gonna repaint.
Well, I mean, we have
That's what I
to,
meant.
we have to
Make the
fix
lines
some of the
more
areas.
distinct.
I think we were holding off until we had an official public safety recommendation to not proceed with retaping.
Just add that to the public safety. Yes.
Yeah. You do have a list, right? Okay, so let's get back to the swap funding.
Yep.
And this resolution.
So the only thing on here that is, I will say, not already accounted for would be the FY '25 road use money. We do not have anything for this bridge in next fiscal year that we're getting ready to start. However, if construction doesn't start until January of 24, the construction will go into the following fiscal year, and you'll see that the 60,000 from fiscal year 25 is close to the 76,000 of contingency. So best case scenario, we don't have to do it, but I think the project will run into fiscal year 25, that if we need to find additional funds, we would have some additional there. Or we could ask for more SCBG funds, but this keeps it at an 80-20 funding, which is preferred.
What was your ask again? 600?
So to request an additional $660,000 from Area 15 Regional Planning Transportation Improvement Program. Please.
So moved.
Oh, that did it.
I'm not repeating that.
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Gandy. Any further discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Ordinance, this is a first reading. This is consideration of ordinance naming street Chautauqua Drive.
So the entrance to Chautauqua Park, that's parallel to Park Street, does not have an official name. State building code requires that we give new buildings an address. And so in order to give the new parks maintenance garage an address, we have to give it a street. I think from a 911 perspective, it might not be too bad to have an official street name. And so the Parks Board, Park and Rec Board agreed to the proposed name of Chautauqua Drive. And I will say this is just for the straight portion. If the Park and Rec would ever want to name the loop something different, that could, so this is just outlining the straight portion.
I move that we approve the ordinance naming the street Chautauqua Drive.
Okay, moved by Esti, is there a second?
The other entrance remains nameless.
Yeah.
Second.
Well, and if we would ever turn traffic off of that road and turned it into only pedestrian, which has been bounced around sometimes when we've had really bad potholes on that road. You know, we've discussed about closing it down to traffic. It is closed down to traffic during the winter months. So the future of that road is a little different than the main area that we paved a couple years ago, actually.
Can you tell us why there are barriers up at Chautauqua Park?
Where at?
I think those are left over from the
yes.
Power Wagon Rally.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because one of the entrances was blocked the other day, and
Yeah.
the other one had them sitting there. I thought they were blocked.
Yeah, the Power Wagons were down there on Saturday morning. Yep. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Gandy provided a second to move this from the first reading to the second reading. So any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Esti?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's all my damage for today.
Thanks, Mel. Under the mayor's report, attached is zoning permits. And I've just been keeping track of this out of my own curiosity to see kind of what's happening in the city as those come in. So you will see we have a couple million more than for 22 as we did for 21. And so this is really just there for your own, again, your own review and curiosity. So
It's good information to have.
Yeah, so commercial properties, just so you know, in 22, we had 3.5 million new, and multifamily, 1.2 million, single family, about 450,000. So, all good. I want to say thank you to the Park and Rec, the fire department, and volunteers, kind of headed up by Guy Harvey, for preparation of the beach in time for Memorial Day. Those people were out there on Friday, getting it all ready, they had to replace the swimming lines because they had come loose, replace the floats out in the middle of the lake. And so the fire department, you know, they came down with their boat and helped the recreation department. And Calvin put that together. And again, thanks to Guy. And there was a gentleman last year, Jeffrey St. George. I don't know if he was there Friday, but, you know, it really has been citizens out of the goodness of their heart who love to swim at the beach that have been raking the beach of the goose droppings. And, you know, so if you're there, if you love the beach and it's kind of messy, please, you know, we're asking the public to participate, and because there's a lot of people that really use the beach and we want to keep it. So it's kind of all of our responsibility to keep the beach nice and enjoy that. I know the other day I had a picture a friend of mine sent. There were 20 people at the beach that at that moment when he went by, and so it really is used a lot, and people really do enjoy it. So anyway, I just want to do a public thank you to all those people who helped with that. And today we had an emergency management budget amendment. We did increase actually our spending this last fiscal year, $6,976. That additional spending really had to do with health insurance for our coordinator. When we did the budget, you know, we know that health insurance is going up every year, but he didn't have the actual correct figure at the time that we did budgeting. So there was an increase for that, and also he had to purchase a new truck bed cover. So just a little bit increase.
Next year's budget or this year's budget?
This year's budget, yeah. So we had to amend it before the end of the year. So that's what that meeting was about. We got done in less than 3 minutes. It was really amazing. And so that's all I have. City attorney report?
Yes, a couple things. We've had a communication going on since January with the state ombudsman, and you and I have talked about this, Your Honor, but basically just to inform the council, I dropped the ball a little bit on this. We did a response letter back in March, and I exchanged that with City Hall, and it was sent back to me with some revisions. And I didn't catch that, and I didn't get it sent off to the ombudsman. The ombudsman chimed in again and said, "Are you ignoring me?" My letter was not ignoring the ombudsman. Basically, the circumstances are our water and front utility department people are very courteous to the public. And our ordinance allows for step process for people that are delinquent, including if you get far enough shutting off the utility. And we have a person who I consider a perennial delinquent who had a shut off. She got mad about being charged a $50 turn-on fee. And anyway, at that point, she complained to the state ombudsman that we had mistreated her. We hadn't mistreated her. Our personnel here were very courteous to her. They all knew who was involved. We had a situation where this wasn't the first year or the first time in the same 12-month period. So I talked with the ombudsman. I believe other people here in the City Hall did also. The ombudsman had said, she acknowledged that the people at City Hall were courteous to her and that they had told her if she wanted to express her concern, she should come and talk to council. The state ombudsman acknowledged that to me, but then she tweaked us by saying Your notice to her about the shut-off doesn't have the magic language in it from the state code about you have certain rights as a consumer and you have the right to be heard before the council. And she then suggested that we probably were in violation of a provision of the state code about the notice for opportunity to be heard in front of the council. I told her, I said, well, I know where you're coming from on that. Your statute is based on something called the Uniform Commercial Code and something called the Uniform Consumer Credit Code. Liz is smiling. She knows what those are, but they're basically uniform codes throughout the country that say that people have a right to notice and they have a right to cure, and you have to give them those notices before you do things to them. And the ombudsman know what I was talking about too. I told the ombudsman that I have a draft of something we can attach to our red tag when we put these out for shutoffs, when we put these out for warnings about shutoff and so forth. Not having a problem with that, but I am having a problem with having to do that 2 or 3 times in a 12-month period. And anyway, the concern being that it really takes going through the cycle 4 to 6 weeks to deal with this applying due process. And I'm the last one in the room to be opposed to due process. I don't want you to misunderstand me, but if it's taking us 6 weeks on a utility collection just to deal with last month, I mean, by the time we get around to the current month, we're already 2 months behind. And there really isn't any good relief for the provider of the service. Whether the person is shut off or not may be part of the relief as far as doing it all over again. So I suggested to the ombudsman, we will look at our policies. We'll have to probably sometime we have a workshop, talk about the idea of how much of this notice to cure language that the ombudsman wants us to deal with do we have to do and how often in the 12-month period. Both the Uniform Commercial Code and the Uniform Consumer Credit Code say you only have to do that once every 12 months. The ombudsman didn't have a response to me on that, and I think she knows that those things in our legislature originated from the uniform codes, and that we might have a point there. But at this point, that's not our policy that's stated anywhere on our end of this argument. So we're kind of caught in that hitch right now. In the meantime, the lady's service is back on. She's not delinquent at the moment. I don't want to mention names. I expect we may have this show up again. We're going to comply as far as putting the extra tag on that says you get an opportunity to come to council and talk about this. But in the meantime, I'm alerting the council that we may want to look at this as far as a policy determination as far as how much due process do we want to afford a consumer or customer, or how many rules do we want to have about where this goes as far as a step process. And I just think the thing is, I don't want to see anybody without utilities, water and sewer. In the wintertime, there's another part of the code that talks about you cannot shut off heat and electricity. So as far as protections for the consumer, they're built in by these different statutes. But at the same time, here at the front office, my impression is that a consumer that didn't like getting a bill for having their service turned back on, even though that was appropriate and probably the minimum that the town could do to try to keep it from happening again, our people are treated rudely. Our people, you know, they grin and bear it, but as far as our policies, I guess they make the assumption that every consumer we have is gonna, you know, straighten up and fly right after this happens once. And what I'm hearing is that this happens sometimes 2 or 3 times a year. About every 2 or 3 months, somebody forgets to pay the bill or, for one reason or another, I don't want to be critical of people that couldn't afford to pay their bill, but the other side of that is they're going to get a built-in buffer already. So there'll be something different about our red tag policies. There'll be something different about our shut-off notices, and that'll be coming out of me. I still haven't basically got an agreement from the ombudsman that our view of this is correct, but what I'm saying is that's what's behind an argument that's going on. Some point in time, we will probably show you what the utility department is going to be using next. And I think the people in the front office will be fine with where we're going with this, but I don't think the ombudsman has anything she can really hit us with as far as the way we've been handling it in the past. She knows that the people here at City Hall tell people, well, come and talk to council. So anyway, but that's what's going on, and I'll try to keep you probably informed as far as what it's going to look like, and then we won't talk about this at the length that I'm talking to you now until we have a workshop. But we've got one of those coming up next fall.
Okay, so you want it in the fall, yeah.
Yeah.
So briefly, and just so you know, when I talked to her, and this is before I talked to John, I wanted to acknowledge her email to me, and basically what she told me was she was looking for consistency in our process and documenting that, and also, the right to a public hearing. So, and making sure that everybody knew that they could come to the council. So.
But she did turn down, she knew she could come to council, she didn't want to speak before us, because I had that conversation.
Okay, great, yeah, so I'll put that on the list for the fall workshop.
All right.
Okay,
Fine.
great. Anything else, John?
No, I think that's enough.
Okay. Committee and board reports, environmental and franchise.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. ENF Utilities Committee met Tuesday, 5:30. That's the 30th of May, excuse me. We discussed two things. The first was the ITC Midwest Agreement, which was on our agenda for this evening. Specifically, we discussed some additional language regarding vegetation management in regards to notice to property owners when ITC was going to be trimming vegetation, and then also the standards with which the company would try to prune, so to minimize the possibility that they'd come in and just top a tree or, try to adhere to a certain level of pruning standards. So we discussed that, and then we also discussed the mulch pile, which I think Joe is going to speak to also. Before he comes up to answer any questions, his memo was attached to our agenda. I don't know if everyone got a chance to see it, but before he speaks about it, I'll just let everyone know on the council we learned that the mulch pile, which was originally brought to council, I don't know if everyone remembers, just to refresh your memory, that a woman came and her husband does tree pruning in town, and she was talking about the abuses at the mulch pile because currently contractors are not technically allowed to dump there at the mulch pile, but there are lots of abuses of that, and there's really no mechanism for enforcement. We could kind of implement a mechanism for enforcement, but then that would cost the city even more money in terms of, manpower to enforce that. And right now, the mulch pile is costing the city around $140,000 a year, on top of which we have too much mulch. So we're trying to decide how to manage that mulch, where we can burn it.
How does it cost $140,000 a year?
So a lot of that's like equipment costs in terms of like grinding the mulch, and then I don't know, Joe, if you want to come up and talk about some of the specifics.
I didn't make copies of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have to use a tub grinder to grind all the brush that's coming in, and each time we tub grind, it's about $12,000. We're tub grinding twice a year right now. Fuel cost is about $6,000, and this is just for the mulch site in a year's time. And then also the machinery that we use going by DOT, they have a suggested rate per hour. And we have a total of about 360 hours of machinery for a year just for the compost alone. That's not, or not compost, I'm sorry, mulch. That's not the compost or the trash cleanup that we do or anything like that. I should have brought these sheets. I apologize for not having some to share with you.
Plus you have labor. Which is
the labor is not even included in that number.
That's how it got to 140,000.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Didn't Rachel,
yeah.
The sustainability coordinator, do a calculation that?
Oh, okay.
I think she mentioned that at the meeting.
Yeah, you said 360 hours of equipment use.
For mulch only.
Mulch, okay.
Mulch only. That's not the compost. That's not the trash that we clean up. That's not including brush pickup that we do twice a year either.
People dumping trash at that site also, which is, that's what he's talking about.
That's part of the cost too, is people who dump their tires or, you know, what have you. So there's the illegal dumping and then the abuse of the mulch pile in addition. So we discussed a couple.
I'm sorry.
No, you.
Can you mention about the people who come in, the professionals who come in and haul off the black dirt by the truckload?
So when we're able to have the time to make compost, and our machine that we have to make it is not really up to speed right now. When we can do that, what happens is people figure out that that's happening, and then we have actually contractors that will come in, and then we just have to load them with that dirt, and then it's gone really quick, and then so really the community really doesn't get the opportunity to use that benefit, or have the benefit of the compost that we do make.
So we discussed a
Subsidizing
few,
somebody's business.
right?
Yeah.
And we discussed a few alternatives. I don't know if we want to come to any kind of conclusion tonight, or if this is just more information for the council. Maybe we'd like to have the community discuss this as well, or weigh in. We talked about having an additional brush pickup, adding one more to, we currently have two. And then, we may also want to discuss allowing community members to come and still pick up mulch and compost when it's available, perhaps at a different site or maybe the current site, so that community members can still get mulch, will still be making it, correct, based on, those brush pickup days. But then it wouldn't just be open all the time, so that it would be abused, and then
So is the proposal on the screen what the committee has come up with? That it would be open for 45 minutes, 3 days a week during the business day?
That's something that I kind of put together as a proposal of a way, because we load mulch Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3 o'clock anyway. And so just the first step is to stop the abuse that's going on of the trash and the extra brush that's coming in there from contractors, and there's quite a bit of that. And so, the proposal was that we would open it up at 2:30 to load mulch and to kind of monitor who's coming in there. If we could put some gates on there to slow to slow some of the stuff that's happening down a little bit. Yeah.
It would be good if you would just go by and see the large logs that are left there.
I use the compost set. I'm out there regularly.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason I'm questioning what's on the screen, because for somebody who works a 9-to-5 job and mows and rakes the grass and cleans up on nights and weekends, I would never be able to load up my trailer and bring it out there during those hours.
Right.
So, if we're gonna consider as a council investing in things like gates, I'd almost rather see us invest in security cameras and try to maintain it that way than cut it off from the working class.
But then if I was looking at cameras, if I had to look at cameras to try and figure it, then I'm investing more hours in, I understand what you're saying, but then you're going through that footage all the time. And there's so many hours that's spent policing, babysitting the site as it is. So, yeah.
Yeah, maybe there's something that we could consider, like an alternate day, like a Saturday sometimes. I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there. We didn't come up with the specific days and times. Because I take what, what you're saying, and people are doing yard work on the weekends too, so you want to make sure that, I don't know, it's available. But I think something that put it in perspective is you said that for $140,000 a year, you could pave, how much was it?
Well, I could pave several blocks, but a contractor, it's about $150,000, I think, a block. Melanie's here. I can do more than that, not to the quality that a contractor would do, but quite a bit. We talked about Burlington.
Yeah.
It's maybe a couple $100,000 to get it restriped, or 150, I don't know what it is. That's something that we could potentially take on ourselves. There's ways, but it's, again, the man hours that we're spending out there is a lot of time that we can be doing preventative maintenance on the streets.
Do you have somebody on call on Saturday mornings? How does that work?
We do have somebody on call on Saturday, yes.
So that's how that, nobody's...
That's how it could work, yes.
Okay, that's what I was curious about, Saturday mornings, so.
At a higher rate, right? If you're on call, are you getting?
Well, yeah, I mean, they just get paid 1 hour for carrying the phone, but if they get called in, they're gonna get overtime. But, I think that if the gates were shut, it's maybe a small step in the right direction, but it could be, if we can cut down on some of the brush that's coming in from out of town. I've seen it come in from out of town. I think there's people here on the council that were out there and watched contractors come in and dump. I personally have seen one of our big contractors dump out there quite often. So the logs that are out there, they're from Libertyville. The ones up against the fence, they're white. So, people just, it's just too open.
And have we sent letters to those contractors?
There's nothing that we can do to the contractors.
It is a violation. Once we adopt a rule, if we post it.
I agree, but again, if you see one mouse, there's 50, right? Or 100. And how do you catch them? How do you, I don't want to spend my time trying to catch them.
So I guess we have a starting point for a proposal. So can you guys meet about it again and come up with something a little more concrete for the
Yeah, I think that we didn't really come up with anything concrete because it does impact the community. We wanted to see if perhaps, it called for, some more community weigh in, and, we're discussing it now. So if there are people who are listening in who want to weigh in.
Would like to be invited.
Yeah, or we could start talking about how to limit it, like incrementally, kind of like you were saying, like if we can shut the gates, whatever, moving towards limiting access to the mulch pile. But we can meet on it again.
Yeah. And for now, community members who use that, please talk to one of your council members and talk to them about when you use it, how you use it.
Once you set that meeting, can we make sure it hits our Facebook page that this agenda item is going to be discussed?
And I think Connor will talk about it.
Yeah, it should be in the paper.
Yeah.
Perfect.
On the radio.
Already thinking about how
You're gonna put it out there. Okay. Thank you.
So I think we're all sympathetic, Joe,
Yeah.
to the challenge that you have.
It's not a new challenge.
Right, it's not a new challenge, and it's been a great service, but also it has to make sense financially.
Right.
And maybe just a pared down kind of situation would be better. And if we can work more efficiently at it. So
I think it's
Well, that's one side. The other side of the
I
equation
was
is because
just
they
going to say, I
get
think
rid
the
of all this
thing is,
excess
so many
mulch
people
and
have
chip that we
really
have.
abused it. I mean, it started out for a brief period of time, it was okay. And then it's just gone downhill from then on. It really has. And I mean, between the contractors who have abused it, and when they specifically were, I thought, notified that it was not to be used by a contractor. But that doesn't seem to stop them anymore. And there are just so many things that people just, when you see some of the objects that are out there, I mean, I feel sorry for the staff because it's unbelievable. that, you know, people are really, really taking advantage of what is there. I mean, and
We have a sign out there, right?
something really has to change for them. That's all there is to it.
You
Chief
know-
Thomas, would it be asking too much that when somebody's out there that they just loop by there and set eyes on it? I mean, not asking for special trips, but if an officer's in the area that they would loop by and take a look?
We can actually even do special requests for extra patrol.
Okay.
We do that area quite often though because of the industrial.
Okay, because it is posted, and with the posting, it sounds like as long as we have it posted.
Unfortunately, these folks wait until they don't see headlights.
Well, of course.
Right.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
But
just
can
if they're in
can the
area.
police write them a ticket right now?
I don't know what we got
We just
posted
take
out
off
there
the
as far as
properties on the weekend.
what you're prohibited from doing. But I'm gonna guess that we don't have it to the point where we pull it out so we can show it as an exhibit yet.
Right.
But we could certainly get that put together.
But we could, like Chief Thomas said, we could ask them to leave if they were there.
Yeah, right now you cite it something like a violation of park rules. People that violate park rules out at Waterwork Park by staying until midnight, they get cited for violating park rules. Our park rules are posted rules that basically are made up for the location.
And we do have a posted sign out there, so
Yeah, it says,
The issue is we
No
have an
private
ordinance for
contract.
the parks.
we don't have an ordinance.
Have an ordinance for this.
right, exactly.
Even if we can get drive-by so they know that we're paying attention.
Yeah.
That would be
But a
great.
lot of times, even in the parks, we educate, and that seems to take care of the issue.
I do think, though, that, you know, there's the illegal dumping and the abuse of the mulch pile, but that's just one of the issues that we identified. So I do think that we need a more long-term solution. There's the cost. So if we're going to spend more city monies or man hours trying to police it, you know, we're just going to be adding that additional costs. And then also there's too much mulch. So, you know, we're contemplating, okay, well, where can we burn it? You know, what are we going to do? And, you know, we pay people to cart the mulch off right now. So, you know, there are multiple different issues here besides just the illegal use and the abuse of it.
Yeah, if we only need one pile of mulch or one time just for the company to come and mulch, and that's all we need, well, you know, let's stop there. And but maybe that's something else that the committee could look at, which is violations and what that means.
Ultimately, if I could just provide mulch for the community, what they needed, like one time or something like that, and then I could take care of the rest of that, I would love that.
Yeah.
That'd be spectacular if I had a place to, and then if, you know, you wanted to let contractors come in, then okay, whatever, I don't care. I can get rid of that, because right now, we mulch so much that we have to ask B&B bedding from, I think they're from Oskaloosa, we've had them come in a couple times. We're just trying to get rid of it, because there's so much of it.
Yeah.
So we're
If the
paying to have
communities-
something
yeah.
that we can't, that the community's not even using.
Right, right. I don't think we want to spend that much money for a mulch that we're not using, so, to create it. So it's an issue, and let's keep tackling it and keep working on it and working on ideas. And community members, we're looking for your help and thoughts, and so call your members, and we'll get that posted when they do a next meeting. And Joe, thanks for your work. I think this is a good
Thank
place
you.
to start and discuss. So, okay, Ways and Means.
Yeah, Ways and Means met on May 30th, and it took, well, there were two things on the agenda. One was the request for the city attorney for an examination of the retainer fee for the city attorney, and consideration of an intern in his office to deal with city work. We looked at those two, and we have two recommendations to council. One is to increase the retainer fee for the city attorney from $3,800 a month to $4,375, which might sound like a lot. It's about 15%, but the retainer fee hasn't changed in the last few years, so it's been constant. It's been a little bit up and down. The council did take action at one point, and the city administrator at another point. I can't remember which they went up or down, but it's been fairly constant at $3,800. So we thought it would be appropriate to allow that increase to $43.75 per month. So that's one
Do you
recommendation.
know how long, when you say fairly constant?
About 10 years.
10 years?
Over 5 years, yeah.
Yeah, almost 2016, I think it was the last time it was reevaluated.
I asked the clerk to pull up the records for the last 10 years. And,
Yeah. It was kind of sad.
So the recommendation from council is to allow that increase beginning July 1. And we don't have a retainer agreement in place, so along with that, to put a retainer agreement in place to protect the city attorney in the future and to also the city, of course, down the road.
Doug, I did, at the end of last week, I included in your council packs a letter of understanding. In 30-some years, I've had about 3 or 4 times when we've done some kind of letter of understanding. What you included was a 20-page example of a contract for a retainer. That might work in New York, but I don't think you need it here. It's pretty big.
No,
it's from the International Municipal Lawyers Association, which when I talked to Bob Rasmussen and John Brown back in 1990, that was one of the things that was on the table, was whether I was going to be a member of that association, the Iowa Municipal Attorneys Association, and a couple other things that one of the city attorneys in Iowa City suggested I ought to do. We kind of decided against it back then.
Well, the committee's not recommending either one of those. It was just an example. I did a quick search and downloaded a template. That's all I did. But
the letter of understanding is pretty much a summary of what we've done in recent years, plus the things that are separated from the regular retainer duties, because there's a lot of things that repetitively happen every month as far as the work.
Right.
So that's why I put the letter of understanding together.
Okay.
It's more detailed than anything else that you've had before from me, but it's something between now and whenever you're inclined to finish this motion, that's the agreement I'd like to have with you.
Okay. The other issue is the recommendation from committee, separate motion, separate agreement, is to pay half the cost up to $22.50 per month for an intern in John's office to deal with city business. So the amount of city business that they're doing is increased because the number of ordinance violations that we're citing is increasing. And so the workload has gone up in essence. So we put in there up to $22.50 because I think that you asked for $4,500. You thought would be the cost
right.
of an
And
internship.
the up to means that if, for instance, I write a check to the intern for $2,000, I won't be billing at $2,250 on
right,
invoice.
up to half of the
It'll
amount.
be whatever I write the check for. But there'll also be a private practice side of this because of the part-time nature of the work. And that person will be expected to generate a certain amount of billable time every month, and that's how the intern will evolve into an association with me, hopefully, and will then be in a position where can make a living, I guess is the game plan. So, but we'll stay within that limit. I don't anticipate invoicing you that until we get up to the point where there's a lot of activity and experience from that person. And I'll bring that person around to introduce you after the intern association threshold. Right now, there's a couple months of anticipated internship yet. And then by this fall, I hope to bring you someone that I would want to associate and offer to you as an assistant. Signing an oath and all that kind of stuff.
Right. So the recommendation from council is approve those two amounts. Ways and Means has the money to fund it. But we thought that the Personnel Committee should deal with the agreements and consider either the letter from John or something more formal, whichever personnel thinks is more appropriate.
So, and the reason we wanted to have that was because it has slipped through the cracks so many times that with the proposed increase in retainer, I was the one that made the motion. I wanted an annual contract for review, so it's in
Yes.
front of us year over year, and we don't let it go 10 years again.
Or 30 years.
Or 30 years.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so it sounds like you want 3 motions.
Well, one
For-
referral to, 2 motions and a referral.
Yeah, I don't have
Well,
a
in case
problem.
motion to refer, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
a motion to refer, and then 2 different amounts.
Right.
Yeah, we certainly want to pay our city attorney fairly. No problem with that. It's odd to approve an increase in payment and then, secondly, review an agreement for payment. That's an unusual sequence. Isn't it?
So,
I'm not
well,
getting
my
paid
suggestion
anything
was
yet.
to have it all ready
I'm
for our
not
next
getting paid
meeting.
anything
I know.
yet, Paul.
The agreement and the dollar amount would come together and be paid and signed July 1.
Okay, I understand.
We're just approving the amount, and start the payment July 1 if the written agreement is in place. So personnel would do that half.
Yeah. My only other comment, and I know you didn't ask for it, is my term is an appointive term, and I believe I signed an oath to serve for 2 years. So, you know, you can review me every year, but probably it'd make more sense to review it every 2 years. I'm making an assumption that you like me well enough
If
to
that's
keep
what
me both of
personnel
the
comes
years.
back.
Yeah, that would be in the agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
And also an escalator clause would be in the agreement, I presume.
May I make a suggestion that all of this come to our next council meeting, and we pass it all officially then?
Sure.
That way it'll be all together. We'll have the
Fine by me.
agreement,
It's like the FEDA agreement.
and we'll have the amounts.
Sure.
So we'll put it on the agenda for next meeting and have it all come together.
Fair enough.
Is that is
The one we
the
usually
agreement to
motion to-
reviewed by personnel before?
Yes.
So make the motion to refer the written agreements to personnel.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Gandy. Any other discussion on that point? Not, please call the roll.
Flornoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So we will, on the next agenda, have this agreement first, and then we'll have these amounts.
Well,
second.
the dollar
That-
amount will be
that you
part of the
proposed.
agreement,
Well, yeah, I guess
I
it will
think.
be in there, yeah. Okay. Great, thank you. Personnel committee.
Mayor,
Oh,
Mayor,
yes.
I noticed, Doug, on the agenda for Ways and Means, there was ARPA funds
Oh,
discussion.
yes.
I know you didn't have any recommendation. I
No
assume there's no recommendation, but could you share with the council and the city what
Well,
happened in discussion?
the chair of the supervisors sent a letter to the mayor and asking for us to become involved in the ambulance department. I don't know what the word.
County
is.
Ambulance Service?
County Ambulance Service.
Yeah.
And it was very vague and uncertain, and it just wanted to know if we would be interested in getting involved. We didn't take any action on it. So there was no structure there. There was no concrete request for any money, a dollar amount, for example. And apparently they've already proceeded with hiring people and structuring their department, so we also understand from Melanie there's quite a few other projects that are in need by the city that the ARPA funds could be used for, so no action was taken.
Didn't we approve ARPA funds for the ambulance previously?
For
Probably.
the current,
No, we,
we did.
I
that's
thought
how
that we
the
did.
increased.
only ARPA
No?
money we spent so far is the $1 million we put into the fire station.
And the childcare.
$250,000 to childcare, thank you, that's right, that's all we've.
That might have been part of our discussion when we were talking about that $30 or
The $30,000?
$30,000.
That did not come out of ARPA, though.
No, but
no,
I
it was
think
a separate
that-
discussion that I thought that
was?
we had
Okay.
had. Yeah, maybe it was just a discussion I had with Aaron, but I thought that we had all discussed it. No?
I
Okay.
don't recall it.
Okay.
All righty, now let's move to personnel.
Okay. We welcomed Douglas Reinert this evening and just talked through the agenda and what he could expect out of this first meeting, and making sure he was really busy today, which is good, and getting settled in. The second point this evening that we discussed, and my mind just went blank, sorry, that is a conversation that has come up first of our awareness was in Melanie's vacation time that was flying by as Aaron was no longer in the seat as administrator. And so she was helping fill in time there and carrying some of his responsibilities. Also, these situations like this where what was going on in the front office was we had personnel gone because of childbirth or other issues. So she was helping fill. So we were short of staff, and also the timing of her vacation time coming to a close where she would lose time. The police department has at times run into that same situation, so they have asked for a payout of their vacation time. I think it's fair that they get some remuneration if that is the case, if there is a shortage of staff and they're willing to work. But on the other hand, I'm real concerned about their mental and physical break that they just need, or just family time, because these are very dedicated people all the way around, and they're willing to work. And as a young person, you might do that, but later you realize maybe it wasn't also wise. And so what we decided this evening is to make it best, we would like to talk to all the department heads of how often this might be occurring with them, and maybe even how they would see that, just hearing them out of how we could better approach this when we are short of staff, and yet vacations and things we really want to see happening in due time and not left undone. So we are going, as a personnel committee, going to the next department heads meeting. That way they don't have to come to us, but it's one they've already scheduled, and we will ask to be on their agenda and present this and at least get the discussion started and hear what they have to say before we make a recommendation to the council then. And this would be part of our ongoing expanding then employee vacation time of what happens in this situation, so everybody knows ahead of time how it's going to be handled.
Okay. Ambulance report?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of give a brief update of what's going on with the ambulance service. They have hired a new director, Brian Thomas, who has brought a lot of experience with him. I've met him. He seems like a great guy. Seems very qualified. Hopefully he does well. They are in the process of retrofitting their building, which, for those of you who have been around for a while, it's the old First National Bank in the old Walmart parking lot, if that makes sense. It's the easiest way to describe it, I think. They look at starting it in October. But the reason I wanted to kind of bring this up tonight is I do anticipate a formal request for funding. They have made casual request of what's available and what we're planning and all that. They have yet to come to council and make a formal request. And what I'd like to see done is, rather than bring them to council for a formal request, which will inevitably be sent to committee, Ways and Means, to be discussed, and have them attend a Ways and Means committee and then come back to a council meeting for our decision, is that if we can preemptively send the foreseen funding request to Ways and Means when the time is appropriate. I'd like to make a motion to send that request to Ways and Means when the time is appropriate, to just kind of expedite this a little bit and skip 1 2-week period that doesn't really need to be.
Do you have some idea when they'll be making this formal request?
I anticipate it'll probably be pretty soon.
We have another meeting June 20th.
We have, we're currently involved in 3 avenues of funding right now. The 28E will probably be extended possibly another 2 years. We may have some financial responsibility if we agree. There may be some lawsuits that won't be settled by that time, so we'll still want to be involved in the 2080 until that is cleared up with the current ambulance service. So,
isn't it typically the case you'd have an entity like that make a formal request to the council, and the council would decide whether or not it would be referred to a committee? The council may decide not to refer it to a committee.
They may. We can have them come in.
I'm just thinking about the protocol. This is, we don't know what the ask is going to be.
We don't know what the ask is going to be.
We don't know when it's going to be.
Do you know if the ask is going to be over what we currently have committed on an annual basis to the ambulance?
Excessively over that.
Excessively over that. Okay.
Is my anticipated thought.
So I'm not sure. I mean, my sense is, I'm not sure there's enough evidence, there's enough reason to expedite a process for the benefit of the council.
We don't have to, but I mean it.
They can go ahead and go through the regular protocol. If they want to make the request, make it. You know.
So
wow.
They do need to make a request for funding. I mean, they do need to understand that by sending letters and asking different members for funds doesn't do them any good. So.
We're already partly committed.
Yes.
We've committed 60,000 plus 14,000 that you've already approved for a third of the ambulance estimate to give them a third ambulance. The $35,000 that's part of our commitment each year for the subsidy, or actually it's for our share of the 2080 expenses, is already committed. What else is there, Tom?
There's the $3,000
a month,
the $3,300 a month subsidy.
Yeah.
You're talking about fiscal year 24?
Yeah.
So we're still in a situation where the hospital will pay a third, the county will pay a third, and the city will pay a third?
At least on the settlement.
A third of what?
Well, whatever the ask is.
No. I don't know. I don't believe that's going to be the case. So.
That's what it is currently, though.
That's what it is currently right now, but I don't believe that'll be the case next year.
So if you do the math, roughly the math, and look at a third from the hospital, a third from the county, and a third from the city, and you do the adjustments for the valuation that the city, that the county taxes for, and the hospital taxes for, and the city taxes for, then when we have a third of the expenses, hospital, county, city, city taxpayers are paying about 58% of the total ask. And then, and our population is about 60% of the population of the county. So I think that's a fair distribution of expenses right now. Where we each pay a third, then I think the city taxpayers are paying their fair share of ambulance service. Outside of that, I don't know what the county's asking for, but the current arrangement, I think, is a fair arrangement.
It's going to have to change, isn't it? Because it's going to be a county-owned ambulance service. This is before we were contracting private providers.
Dispatch serves the entire county, but it's a city department.
Well, it's likely. I think it very well could change. They're putting in a couple of $1 million, I do believe, on the service. Is that correct? As I understand the budget, it's pretty significant.
We don't know.
The number that
we don't know.
The number that we got from the supervisors didn't have any numbers in it.
Well, I would think if they were to want the city to contribute, we want to be able to ask those kind of questions to all council, and then perhaps we want to refer it to the Ways and Means or whatever appropriate committee. So their ask is going to involve some examination by the council, which I think is fair. So I think they should come to council first, as anyone else would ask.
We can still ask all of those when Ways and Means brings a recommendation back. I mean, we don't have to follow that direct recommendation. We're not tied to that.
So let's just wait for the ask to come to council.
That's fine.
And then we'll move on it. Decide which is the best way to move forward. Maybe a simple ask and maybe more complicated.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate what you're saying about the 2080 should probably extend because we might have some unfinished business, so to speak. So I appreciate you saying that.
I think whether we want it to or not, I think it probably will.
Okay.
So.
Sounds good.
Well, we've already budgeted for the ambulance 28 ambulance service next year. Right,
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes, that was part of our budget.
Did we budget the 35,000 plus the additional? We didn't budget the additional 3,033 a month, our share of the 10,000. No, we just budgeted the 35,000.
$60,000.
60,000 for the ambulance
60,000 for the
itself.
ambulance.
Correct.
And another 35,000?
Did we budget 35 for the, no.
Just 60,000 total?
60,000
Correct.
for the
That's what we
ambulance.
normally, out of lost.
Yes.
Or was it lost?
What about
It was lost.
What about the 14 that John mentioned?
That
For
was
the
not budgeted.
That was approved, but it was
It
going to
was
be
a-
sent to Ways and Means.
Yes. It was not in the budget, though.
No.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Did it get sent to Ways and Means? Because I don't have it on my agenda.
It did get referred to Ways and Means. You have not met on it yet.
It was at least a couple meetings ago.
I don't even
Yeah.
remember it. I don't
Okay.
remember the $14,000. I remember $30,000, but not 14. Where'd the 14 come from?
14,333 or something.
For the
Yeah,
ambulance.
we had originally, last year, I think we budgeted 50,000 out of lost funds for the ambulance. We upped it to 60,000 this year. The new ambulance came, they bought a new rig with a retrofitted top, or cab, whatever you want to call it. And the price came in at about 227,000 something. I don't remember the exact figure, which divided out 3 ways was going to be 74,300 and something dollars. So
we already had 60.
We already had 60, and yes, we made a motion to approve the additional 14,000 to pay our 1/3 share of that.
Okay.
So they didn't
And we
make
own that
many-
ambulance.
1/3 of it.
Yeah, right.
Well,
2080 owns it, I guess.
2080 owns it.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. We'll wait for their request,
Okay.
see where we go from there. And then Katie wanted to hear about traffic on Liberty Drive. Chief, I think the question is for you.
Yep, I had received an email from a resident on the street. I forwarded the email to Chief Thomas, asked him to follow up on it. And I'd like the council to hear what his findings were.
This past Joe and I's bedtime, so I don't know how accurate I'm gonna be with this last. Yeah, we've had several elected officials contacted and police department contacted a couple times in reference to increase with the detour. We did address it on several different occasions. Unfortunately, a lot of the time that they say it's the worst, it's Monday through Friday, weekdays, and we're busier those times with calls, and it's only when officers are available. So we tried a lot on the weekend. A lot of the complaints were the vehicles sound like they're going very fast, and as you know, on Liberty Drive, there's 2 curves, and the vehicles sound like they're speeding up quite a bit. But a lot of it is just the increased traffic. We sat in the area for a couple hours of different days, and the worst speeds we saw were most vehicles were driving well below the 10 over posted. And I'm not saying that, it's a speed limit of 25, but we weren't stopping more than 35, and almost everybody was going. We only stopped 2 cars each time, and the highest speed we saw was a 38 and a 25 twice. And then we saw a 48 and a 35 on Libertyville Road twice. Once again, it was a small minority. Most people are, because of the complaints and the increased traffic, trying to ride safely. So we'll continue watching it, monitoring it. We think a lot of the complaints, though, are because it's summertime, kids are out, windows are open, and neighbors are scared, and I don't blame them. But we didn't see the dangerous speeds that we see out on the highways, which is good.
Did we post any additional speed limit signs on that street? Just was curious.
No, just extra detour signs and drive carefully, but it's well posted through that area anyway, being residential.
Yeah.
Joe already got that done, so I think a lot of it just was talking to neighbors and explaining to them that we're there, we'll be there when we can, and we're not seeing the terrible speed yet.
Yeah. Okay, great. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Thomas.
Thank you.
Administrator and department reports. You probably don't have a report for one day other than you're exhausted.
One day. Lots of fun though. Enjoyed it.
Melanie, do you have anything you want to report?
Just one thing, because we're talking about Facebook. And Mayor, I was going to see if you would announce this, but we were talking about posting the meeting related to the compost pile on the city's page. Maybe about a year ago, the council decided to turn off comments on the city's post because staff was spending so much time answering people's questions. If you are a Facebook user and you wish to communicate with your constituents that way, I would encourage you to share it to your own page so people can comment on your own page. I lost the radio, but I will make sure to mention it next time I'm on the radio, that we don't see all the comments. Commenting on Facebook is not the best place to get your concerns related to any changes. And so if you personally want to, again, talk with your constituents through Facebook, I would encourage you to share it on your own page or a council page or something like that and discuss with them this way. But as far as like city business, we try not to do a lot of question and answer. Otherwise, you know, particularly like the railroad crossing, I would have been answering questions all day and all my answers would have been, I don't know, BNS just told me. So anyway, that was the only thing. That we'll continue to post stuff and let people know about meetings and things like that, but it's not necessarily the best way to communicate concerns about action items from the council.
Right. Appreciate that. So people call or email your city council person in your ward or your at-large people.
We've had plenty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great.
Email.
Okay. So with that, I will take
So moved.
a motion to adjourn. Moved by Toohill and second by Anderson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, council. Appreciate your time tonight.